Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about, let's talk about, let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Happy Monday. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host, and Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Mindset Monday. Mindset Monday is an opportunity for you and me and my guests to chat about whatever it is we want to talk about. And today we are talking about You Are Worthy. You are worthy. My guest is Melissa Comeau, who is no stranger to Conversations with Nicole, and I am super excited and delighted to have her back with me tonight. But before I bring her on, I want to hear from you all. Where are you tuning in from? We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Greater Works Network on RokuTV. On YouTube and Facebook, it's interactive. So by all means, please put in the comments where you are tuning in from, your city, your state, and engage in this conversation with us. All right, I see Mr. Ozzy Daniel in here, Virginia Beach in the house. Thank you for being here, my brother. Miss you. Hope you're doing well. Others will be joining us momentarily. Again, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so have definitely been involved in a lot of mental health fairs and online programs and things of that nature. So it's been a busy month on the mental health and wellness front. I see my singles mingle co-host Nick Rains is here in Tally Ho. Thank you for being here, my brother. I appreciate you so much. All right. Well, others will be joining us. So I'm going to go ahead and read Miss Melissa's bio, especially for those of you who may not have seen her when she was on here before. So Melissa has 15 years of experience working with couples, individuals, and groups. Melissa has a private practice specializing in relationship concerns and is currently the president-elect for the Central Florida Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. Melissa believes in the importance of multiculturalism and focuses her services on BIPOC women and couples. She has experience working in college counseling centers, focusing on work with young adults, where one of the top concerns are relationship issues. Ain't that the truth? Melissa started her career working in community mental health and nonprofit agencies, including domestic violence and sexual assault advocacy agencies, where she received training in identifying unhealthy and toxic dynamics in relationships. Melissa received her bachelor's degree in psychology, master's of science degree, and education specialist degree in mental health counseling at the Florida State University. Any Knowles in the house? Melissa holds licenses and certifications as a licensed mental health counselor, licensed marriage and family therapist, and national certified counselor. Melissa is also a qualified supervisor. Y'all help me welcome Miss Melissa Comeau.
Hey everyone, nice to be here tonight.
Good to have you. Good to have you.
Yeah. We like family now, right, Nicole? I mean, I don't know, between singles mingle and conversation with Nicole.
Right. right. We just keep you in the rotation.
Yes, ma'am. Please do. Please do.
We got Marjorie on.
Marjorie.
Marjorie. All right. Much love from Nick,
Let's see.
my classmate from high school, Miss Sharice Du Bois. Thank you for being here. And my mom in Miami
Oh,
is on. Thank you for being
yes,
here, Mom.
ma'am.
Appreciate it. So, y'all, we need y'all to tag and share and tag, and let the folks know they need to be on here with us for this
Yes.
very important conversation. All
Hey,
right.
Nick.
Yes. All right. So while folks are tagging and sharing and getting others to join us, I want to hear from you, Melissa. I want you to tell us, who is Melissa? Not what you do, because we just talked about some of that in your bio, but who are you?
Yes. I always like to start with my cultural background. As you heard from my bio that you said, culture is important to me.
Mhm.
So I'm a Haitian American first generation from Miami, South Florida as well. I am a wife and a mom. And let's see, I guess I can do some like fun facts. I guess things I like to do in my spare time. I love to practice meditation. I haven't said that before.
Mhm.
And I would say I would also share that my kind of role model or mentor, not mentor, but someone I look up to is Michelle Obama. I'll share that. I don't think I've shared that with people before.
Michelle
So
Obama.
yes, ma'am. And not necessarily because the fact that she's married to Barack, but in terms of how she carries herself and the way she dialogues and the types of things that she kind of puts out there, especially when she talks about relationships, because that's my thing. So I was excited when she talked about that with people in a real way. I'm about doing that. So
Indeed. So tell us a little bit about what prompted you to start your practice.
yeah, so I actually started my practice part-time in 2017. So it's always been like a goal of mine to go full-time. So I've been going full-time for almost about 2 years now.
Mhm.
And so I really just wanted a space to be able to make it my own, as some of us who may know, not necessarily just therapists, but just people who are working for other agencies, we, have to kind of align with whatever the job requires of us, which, I
Right.
did for many years. And so I was excited to take an opportunity to really shape the practice that I feel like I can do my best work. And I've been blessed enough to do that, which includes obviously individual and couples with relationship issues, serving the BIPOC community. And it's honestly been amazing since I did. I think it was almost like time, being able to pull together all the stuff that you read in my bio and like be able to cultivate it in a way that I can, meet people where they are. And even so I'm doing it virtually, that part I didn't imagine.
Mhm.
But it works.
Right.
Even as far as like my schedule, because I'm with my son during the day. And so because I see couples, they have work and kids during the day. So like dinner, bedtime, and then they're able to like see me a couple hours in the night. So it just works together with, what I want to do and who I serve best. So really just being able to get out the framework of what the jobs are saying, and more so be able to kind of like work in my genius zone, so to speak, like be able to do my best work.
All right, Genius Zone. Love it. And so you are in Central Florida,
Yes, I am.
and are you taking new clients?
I am. So that's the beauty about being virtual. Hopefully by now, if you're in the mental health field, you should pick up on that. But we're able to see people across the state of which you practice. And Florida is a big, long state. So, so anywhere from the panhandle all the way to the Keys,
Mhm.
and it's beautiful because I do get to kind of have clients from different time zones and stuff. And obviously we know Florida is not a monolith. Communities look different. So I get to meet different people I would not be able to meet if I only saw people locally. So although I have a good bit of Central Florida, because of the colleagues I have here, I get referrals, but I
Mm,
do get referrals from all different parts of the state. So yes, that's the benefit of being virtual. You can see a lot of people.
absolutely. All right, we got Mr. Johnny Johnson here. Johnny is our question man, and Johnny wants to know, are you married?
Well, that was in my first part of my bio. So I'm a wife and a mom. So yes, I
Yeah,
am.
very married, Johnny, very married. Yes. All right. So you are taking new clients. Do you do insurance?
Yes, good question. I do insurance and private pay. I can do insurance with couples therapy. That's always like a tricky question, but I'm not going to bore you out all the details. But just know there are some limitations to using any insurance, but particularly for couples, there's a little bit more limitations there. But that once I learned that, I was excited to be able to offer that to our community, because I know that's something that we don't always know. I think we think of insurance as just like individual therapy, but there's other types of therapy you can use for it. So
Okay.
for sure.
Good to know. So I mentioned all of that because one of the things that we are trying to do here on Mindset Monday and Wellness Wednesday is eliminate the stigma and
Mm-hmm.
encourage the viewers to get your checkup from the neck up.
Yes,
Get
ma'am.
with the counselor, get with the therapist. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Very good. All right. So we got Pumpkin on. Thank you for being here, Pumpkin. Appreciate you. All right. So we are going to get started with our disclaimer, which states that all topics past, present, and future on Conversations with Nicole are for informational purposes only. They are not to be used as a diagnosis for treatment or an answer to any personal issues related to the topic being discussed before, during, or after the program. I said it. All right. So this topic is, this is a doozy for me because I'm gonna be real transparent, like right from jump. This is something that is an issue for me.
Oh, see, I did not know this. I learned something new. Probably for
Mm-hmm.
most people, honestly, but they don't always know that's what it is. So,
Yeah. So let's start with defining worthiness or worth.
yeah. So another term that's used for it is self-worth.
Mhm.
And so self-worth is basically the concept that you have value just because you exist, not because you do anything for it, not because of how smart you are, how pretty you are, um, not because how much money you make, right? It's just because you literally are born and you are here, and that is enough. You have intrinsic value for just being here. That's it.
Hmm.
I know.
So
It's like, whew.
seems simple enough, right?
Yeah, it's simple but not easy, right? I think it's one of those things.
I suppose. So why do we have such an issue with self-worth, self-value, worthiness?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, like a lot of things, mental health is a lot of variables that go into that answer, which we have time to talk about tonight.
Mhm, mhm,
But one of the things I do want to share before we get into some of that is kind of how it came up as a topic for me. So, for those of you that hopefully saw me on one of Nicole's previous shows last year, I did a show on self compassion,
mhm.
and so that's basically the concept is that you treat yourself like your best friend. Don't judge yourself. Don't criticize. Just give yourself grace. Right. That's the short self compassion
Right.
definition. And so as I was continuing to do work with the couples, and I see mostly individual women usually call me first, and
Mhm,
then they either bring their partner or they don't. That's usually like what ends up happening. So most of my clients are women, either in a relationship, either with their partner or individual therapy. But long story short, I was doing amazing work with these women, and so were they in their own lives, and they were meeting their goals in therapy and doing really good and doing. I have a whole framework we're working through, including self compassion, and we found that I say we because I proposed it to them in their therapy, and I realized it was a theme for the women I was seeing, not just one or two people.
mhm,
That they were finding happiness and being able to meet whatever goals they were trying to work through in therapy, but didn't feel either fulfilled or felt like something was missing, right? So
mhm.
like there's a level of happiness, like, oh, I'm happy I'm not as anxious anymore, or I'm not as depressed as I was. I know how to work on, my relationship better. And like it felt like there was movement, but also maybe lacking a little bit of depth in terms of how how things were sticking for them, so to speak, in terms of like within themselves.
Mhm.
And so we would find that out because, again, they're reporting all good things, but then at the same time, when they would bring other situations that would come up in therapy, we would say, okay, are you doing the things that we talked about? I'm like, yeah. It's like, okay, so what's the issue? And they couldn't really figure out what it was. And then I started exploring with them different things, and self-worth kind of came up for me. And I proposed that to a few of them. And they're like, yeah, I think that does fit with what I'm feeling, which is like, I'm doing all the things, but I still don't feel like the intrinsic value within myself. They didn't use intrinsic as a word, but just that knowing that I'm good enough. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're doing all these things, but just not feeling good enough still. That was kind
Mhm.
of like what came up with the theme with everybody.
Mm.
And so I don't know. Y'all maybe don't know me that well yet, but y'all don't get to know me that when I start experiencing things like that with my clients and even my personal life and people I know, I can't like stop thinking about it. And so I start doing research and talking to other people and looking up videos, and then I'm starting to make these amazing connections with the work that I'm already doing. And so basically it became a thing where self-worth is one of those things I notice in my clients that is a deeper concern, but also something that's ongoing. It's not like, okay, I check a box that I'm confident now, I put on my, my Beyonce dress and like, I'm powerful, like Michelle, like it doesn't, it doesn't feel like it's enough. Like, even if you do all those things. And so to be able to talk about it in a way that, like, even if you would identify as having low self-worth or suffering from that, but you probably can imagine in some situations where you didn't feel good enough. Like, you tried your very best, you did your very best, but for some reason you didn't walk away feeling like content with the situation or with that person. And so I want to kind of share that backstory because I feel like it's meaningful in terms of how I got to even it being a concept. Because at first it started off as just like, oh, when you feel down, just don't judge yourself anymore. That was kind of like what, I'm watering it down, but that was kind of like the initial piece of it. And even when people were doing that, it's like, okay, well, I don't have to feel bad. Even if I don't feel bad all the time, there's still a part of me that doesn't feel like it's connecting, and it's really a deep self piece of it. It's a challenging topic to talk about because it's such an experiential thing. Like, it's really within the person.
Right.
But I'm taking a chance anyway, because I feel like it's worth at least exposing people to it to kind of check in with themselves and see where they might land. And I have resources as well. I'm always good at free resources, so I can share that with y'all tonight to look up yourselves as well.
Indeed. So I think I may have shared this with you, and I know I've said it on several of the lives this year, but my personal theme for 2023 is know thyself. Know thyself. And so I think self-worth is a huge part of that. Because in terms of knowing yourself, you can also value yourself, right? I'm hoping that's what's happening. I feel like a lot of us don't know ourselves because we haven't really taken the time to sit with ourselves and kind of go through those past experiences that may have been difficult for us, where we may have, put some coping skills into place to try to protect ourselves or what have you. But peeling back those layers and really truly identifying who we are. Our show last Monday was on living beyond your representative. And so the thought behind that was a lot of the thought, and some of the viewers that were on here can kind of attest to what we talked about, but a lot of that had to do with our family of origin and how we were raised and, what things we were taught. And specifically, I can remember this example that was given that one viewer said that they were taught to, behave a certain way, and that when they got married was when they could really be who they were. But they didn't really know who they were because they had, were modifying their behavior to conform to this.
Yes.
Before they got married. And then when they got married, they're now supposed to be free to be themselves, but they don't even know who themselves is. And the person they're married doesn't know who themselves is because they got married to the representative. So
no, that's important.
Yeah. So anyway, we gotta value ourselves enough to know ourselves and treat ourselves well.
Yes, that's so important. I appreciate you so much for sharing what you want to share tonight, because again, I don't think people necessarily think about it in the way that we're talking about it now. And it's very courageous of you, I think, to give it a platform in general with your show, but also to kind of share that, you're not just a host, but you're a person. And even with all the great things you have going on, you still struggle with some of that, right? I think that's exactly what I'm trying to, get to and having the conversation. And I think, sometimes I think we more feel comfortable talking about things like self-confidence or like self-acceptance. And I have a whole, and I'll talk to you all a little bit more as we go on tonight, but I actually formulated a retreat with a co-host of mine. Her name is Brittany Carter. She's in Central Florida as well. She's a licensed mental health counselor. But we just finished a retreat on this about almost a week and a half ago, and we had an amazing group of women who came. Yeah, we're gonna continue it because it was something that was so powerful. But in the dialogue with the women, we're talking about like self-esteem, for example, is a good word. And so we even went down, like broke down all the terms. I'm gonna bore y'all tonight with that too. But like there's a difference between conditional and unconditional of all these self-words, right? And so the self-worth is basically the most, I believe, unconditional type of self-word, you know, in comparison to like self-confidence is very conditional, because literally confidence is about what you do. Can you do it well? Are you confident about doing it well? Like literally that, right? Versus self-worth is you have to do nothing and you're still valuable and still worthy, you know? In the retreat, and this will help with the definition to kind of give you guys more things to kind of chew on a little bit. But in the retreat, one of the things that we talked about, or I kind of gave an example about, I know I just shared about Michelle just now, like like I look up to her as a role model, but I was given an example about like Beyonce and Michelle, because I feel like those are two women that people kind of like look up to or like value. And I was like, you know, what if, you know, Beyonce couldn't sing? What if she ain't had that golden, you know, brown hair, you know? What if she ain't had that badonkadonk? Like, what if she wasn't doing her dance moves like that? You know, would the world, and I say the world because it's not one person doing this, but like, would the world still value her the same? Right? And it got quiet. And I was like, I'm gonna give you another one. How about Michelle Obama? What if she wasn't as intelligent? What if she wasn't married to Barack? What if she wasn't this amazing speaker, this beautiful woman, this lawyer, and all these things, you know, philanthropist, like all these wonderful things that she brings, which they both do, bring value to the community, to our culture. What if she didn't have those things? Like, would people still value her, right? And of course, we know being Black and brown women and men, there's complexity, their own value and all that. I'm not gonna, that's a whole other thing with the racial part and cultural part. But just looking at the two people, you know, would we still value them the same? And people were quiet when I asked those, you know, more rhetorical questions. I wasn't expecting them to like give me a real answer, but it did kind of help people think about like stripping away the skills or the beauty in what we would call it, or any of the things that we tend to value in that social construct, you know, and just look at the being, just the person, and would they still hold value? And eventually people were like, well, I don't think the world would value this. And no one wants to say it's them, right? It's like, well, no, I think it's the world. It's the socializing, you know, they don't value them, you know, the same. But like, you would have paid tickets, thousands of dollars to go see somebody just sit on the stage and just look at each other. You ain't gonna pay that. That's not your dollars. Not because your dollars have value in the construct that we created in society, right? And so it's kind of one of those hard things to like put yourself in that equation, right? Because especially when you're at a retreat, because you want to, you know, everyone's trying to be, you know, elevated, you know, that kind of thing. But we had to all be honest and say, no, the world would not value them the same. And I think I would fall into that too. And it's like kind of like breaking down those mental constructs of what we determine is valuable or not. You know?
Indeed. All right. So let me pause. I see a few more people that have jumped on. Mr. Warren Cave, thank you for being here. We also have Felicia Dilbert, long time no see. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Felicia.
Haitian Speed said, this is a needed topic, much needed topic. Indeed. Thank you so much. So, all right. So you said this is probably the most unconditional of the self words. And so how do we move to, if we are feeling unworthiness, what's your thoughts about like how we move to being worthy?
Yeah, I think, hey Felicia, I think the thing to remember is that you already are worthy. I think that's the thing that trips people up, right? It's like, you literally already are. And I know it's like, but no, Melissa, give us a path. Like, how do we get there? And I'm going to share more, but I just want to start with that because I think that is more true to what the concept is about, is that you are already there, right? So in terms of feeling it, I think it's a more go towards your question, Nicole, is how do you feel more worthy? So a couple different things, right? I think your original question, one of them was like, what got you there, right? We'll talk about that as well. But in terms of like how to help yourself feel the worthiness is to start with remembering that you already are worthy, right? And so
but hold on.
Go ahead. Yeah, I know. It's like a rabbit hole here. I'm trying to.
The world says, no, you Black, your hair is nappy, your nose is wide, your lips are full, you a woman, you a man, you are short, you are tall, you are skinny, you are fat. It says all of these things, right?
Yes. And I think that goes to the question which we'll get into as far as how we got there, right? Which is society is one. But yes, you're right. That's the hard part about it, because we are attaching value to conditional things. I think that's the piece. Once we kind of like start understanding, not just cognitive, like in your head, but like even just in your heart, that it's not a condition. It's not, it's literally not. And so even having to meditate on it, for example, or remind yourself, affirmations are great for that, right? It's almost like deprogramming what you've been taught in a sense, right? And so that is really hard. And I would even say that's why my colleague and mine, Brittany, and I are so passionate about the topic, because even the women that came, they're like, we got to come back and do more of these, you know, because it's like, yes, we get the concept, Melissa, but like, again, like to your point, Nicole, like how do we, and we gave them tools, we talked about it, but it's one of those things you have to literally practice, like a lot of things, you have to practice it, right? And some of that practicing is deprogramming the way that we think about what is valuable, you know? So another way to kind of give y'all another, like, it's easier for me to give analogies a little bit because I think it's more, again, the experiential piece of it versus just giving you like bullet points. So which I'll do a little bit of both. But like one of the attendees came and she was talking, I forgot what example she gave, but she was sharing a story about her 8-month-old like niece or whatever. And I forgot how she connected to self-worth at this point. But when she brought in that example, I was like, that's actually a great example, because if we think about babies, you know, babies are born and we automatically value them. Like they don't have to do anything. They don't gotta work. They don't gotta do nothing. It's like, oh, you just cute, and that, you know, you just valuable already. You know, some are not even here on this earth. They're just in our bellies, and we value them already, right? And so if you think about what that means, intrinsic value, you have to do nothing. Just because you exist and you are here, you're already valuable. And we think about how we apply that to certain things in certain situations, like a baby, you know, a child or whatever. Then it's easier for us to understand that on an emotional, even a spiritual level, if you're a spiritual person. But when we start, I even talk about this with the ladies too, of like when children start getting older and we're trying to like do behavior modification and training, like, okay, this is be polite and like, you know, safety rules and stuff, which is safety is important, right? But it's how we discipline them to start letting them, that's how they start learning what's conditional or not. Right. Because kids don't know when you discipline them, that means that you just discipline. Some they feel like maybe you don't love them anymore, or like you don't care about them. You have to actually tell them like, no, I do love you. It's just that I want you to be safe, or I want you to make sure that, you know, that you do well in school, or whatever the things that you're trying to teach. Right. But we don't give them that message. And so that's why your question is such an important one, but also a hard one to answer in a sense, because it's actually simple, but not easy. Right. It's that the way you get there is to start remembering or learning or affirming yourself that you already are it. You know, so it's like so I think the baby example, like leading up to like how we even got here of not thinking that we're worthy, can start to take away that, you know, piece of it. Does that make a little?
It makes a lot of sense, which is why I wanted to address it, because you're right, the baby don't know. But babies do pick up on, you know, certain energies, and while they aren't necessarily comprehending initially, you know, what words you're saying, or but they're looking at your facial expressions, they're paying attention to your tone of voice. And so, but even beyond that, when we get to a place where the children can't understand what's being said, what are we saying? What, you know, what are we telling them, and what are they believing based on the things that they are hearing and seeing? And so you're right, this whole deprogramming and reprogramming has to take place in order for us to, I think, feel worthy or believe that we're worthy or think that we're worthy, right?
Yep. And so one thing, that's exactly how I would say it. So one thing I can offer in terms of, because the other thing with self-worth too is like, with the deprogramming, I'm glad we're on Mindset Monday. It's like a perfect, you know, like theme to go on. Not only are we deprogramming how we think, right? That's one level of it. But also is thinking about like even like the moments that you feel most valued, right? Like what do those moments look like? So that's more of a personal question. And so maybe it will lead you towards like, yeah, you know, like I feel more valued when I get praise for certain things. That may not lead you directly to increasing your self-worth, but what it will do is let you know what is your worth attached to.
Yes.
Right. And then that's where some of the deprogramming happens. So it can happen simultaneously, which is like the affirmations and meditations, like putting some of the positive, worthy thoughts in your head as much as possible. But also looking at, because like almost like you're fighting an uphill battle a little bit, right? So like finding out, well, what is my value most attached to? And that's probably where my self-worth issues are likely at. And
Yep.
so then I have to start deprogramming specifically like what that is, in those cases. So an example could be like a student. Let's use I used to work at FSU and UCF before. So like a lot of students attach their grades to their worth, right? And so at first, you're like, oh, okay, they just want to do well. That's cool. Let me just help them through this anxiety. But when you have students who want to harm themselves because they can't pass a test, then it's a little more than just anxiety. And anxiety is major for people. Don't get me wrong. But what I am saying is I can't just look at a student and just say like, oh, you're going to do fine. It's okay. They're going to be like, no, Miss Melissa, I'm not going to do fine. And sometimes it is parental stress, but there are a lot of students who didn't have parental stress either. There's like a good mix of students who just put the pressure on themselves, and they'll figure that out through therapy. Like it was them putting the pressure. Of course, their parents want them to do well, but in terms of like how well or even like grade point average, like all the little specific things. And for the students that would, be able to shift their thoughts and their emotions around, if I say things like, I was in college before and I'm a good example. Thank you. And honestly, the resumes, like nobody cares what your GPA say. They just want to know you passed. And for the students that get that, like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. They just didn't know. And so like, okay, that's enough for me. I don't got to worry too much about this. As long as I get a 3.0 and graduate, I'm good. But I want to do well to get honors or whatever, but I don't have to attach my anxiety or whatever to it. But for the students that were like pushing away any example I gave and just kept going back and back and back, and anxiety, not just, both depression and anxiety, either that example will be harming self, or no matter what I said, no matter what examples, going for someone who went through the matriculation, over and over, sessions and sessions, and it didn't matter what I said, like, you know what I mean? Or examples, or even give their own examples in their own life that they share with me that I, share the same in a different way for them to see their worthiness. It still, wasn't enough, So when you find that, okay, I'm attaching my worth to something and then it doesn't go a particular way, and then it impacts me in some significant way that maybe if you were to I hate to compare, but look at the normalized sample of people, maybe might be an outlier in that, then that kind of tells you a little bit like, oh, I'm really, worked up on this. And maybe there's something going on with me that I have to look at my worth in that way. So I would say look at what you attach your value to the most and whatever it is, and that can tell you kind of where to start.
Exactly. All right. So we got Dr. K on. She teaches at FAMU. She said many of my students, especially after the quarantine, are struggling with identity and self-worth. Yeah. Listen, I think just young people, period, are really struggling with that. So we are a little bit over the halfway mark. Let me give some shouts out because I see some folks that have joined us. Miss Shaquaylin, thank you for being here. Miss Tracy Gole, thank you too. Patricia Joseph, thank you for being here. And of course, Dr. K, thank you for being here, everybody. And I just shouted out they're all here in Tallahassee. So for those of you who are just joining us, I am on with Miss Melissa Comeau, a licensed therapist in the Central Florida area, although she's from Miami and was in Tallahassee because she got her degrees from the Florida State University. And so we are talking about you are worthy, self-worth, not having to do anything, but still recognizing that you are valuable. All right. So Ozzy said self-awareness is the key to promoting the value of living out the intrinsic self, and also paying attention to our attachments and what we need to detach ourselves from to evolve. Very well said.
Amazingly said.
Yep.
Thanks, Ozzy.
Thank you, Ozzy. Yeah, but I also want to, because I do a radio segment on Mondays, and I found an article in Psychology Today that, and I'm gonna try to find it real quick while I'm here, but that talked about worth and worthiness, and suggested that we look at, like you're saying, look at what we value, right? Could it be some people that we admire? And what is it about them that is admirable or important to us? Right? Why do we find these qualities important? So I think, if you can't find that within yourself, then again, look into somebody you admire. And then the other thing that it talked about was goals that you wish to achieve. What makes those goals important to you? And so the example that you gave about the students and the grades, yeah, and I get that, but I guess you're more than just these grades. You're more than just this degree or diploma. So
Mhm.
to me, it's deeper than that. Like
Mhm.
it's so much deeper than that. And when I say
Mhm.
deeper, I mean it really. I am a woman of faith, so to me, it goes to a spiritual level.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna go there too. You want to say something about it?
Yes, yes. So go ahead, go ahead, go
Oh,
ahead.
oh, me to say something. Okay. Well, I actually was thinking about, yes. So even if you think about the word intrinsic, I gave the example of babies being born. That all can be connected to a spiritual place, right? For
Mhm,
people. Um, and spiritual doesn't necessarily mean you're attached to a particular religion. It just means that there's something that you believe is higher than yourself. And
mhm,
when people start to kind of bring that to their awareness that there is something bigger than myself, bigger than this life, bigger than this grade, even bigger than this relationship. And I'm all about relationships, you know what I'm saying? With people outside of ourselves. That is where people start to kind of like, again, practice, are able to practice more self-worth, like improving their sense of self-worth, because their worth is already there. Remember, it's already there,
mhm,
but their sense of self-worth is attaching to something bigger and greater than themselves. Spirituality is one. For some people just humanity is good, or it's wanting to leave a legacy, or just something that feels like it's not attached to any particular outcome or condition,
mhm.
but just more about being, just being, and that's okay. So I'm definitely with you in the spiritual part. I think that for people who are already attached to some form of a spirituality, I think it's a little easier to translate, but
Mhm.
not necessarily everybody has that direct path necessarily right now. And so I just want to make sure that we touch the gamut across the board, that as long as you can find something bigger than yourself, then it's easier to practice your self-worth. But if that's something that you don't have, and you want to work on it, I still think it's possible to do. You just have to remember the condition part of things, remembering, even thinking about the people in your life who you feel like the closest to are
Mhm.
probably the people you feel like who judge you the least or don't judge you at all.
Hmm.
Right. And I say at all, you don't know what they're thinking in their head, but you don't feel judged.
Right.
Right. And so if you don't feel judged, that means that you probably feel some form of unconditional love there.
Mhm.
Right. And so even for the people who don't connect to a spiritual place, which I do want to spend a little more time talking about that, but just want to make sure I touch everybody, that if you are able to kind of pull in mind or think of a time in your life when you felt just the most cared for and the most loved, it's probably that time when you didn't have to do anything, when you didn't feel judged, the person was just listening to you, the person just gave you a hug. Like it's kind of, I don't know if y'all ever heard about, like, I'll give another quick example. The was it the kindness things where people just do things out of like random acts of kindness.
Acts of kindness.
You
Mhm.
know how good that makes people feel? I don't gotta do nothing. And you pass back this little $5 for this ice cream. Like, it makes people feel so good. Like, it's not only because it's a surprise, but it's like I didn't have to do anything. I was just here, and the person just gave me this this thing. And so I think, again, we can kind of look at those things on the surface level of just like, oh, that was just nice. But no, like, how did it really make you feel on the inside? Like the
Yeah.
time when you went and told somebody your deepest, darkest secret, maybe something you're so shameful of, and they didn't even bat an eye. They just was listening and just ready to hear it. Like,
Mhm.
those are the moments. They may have been like real short, small moments, but you probably can find those moments that when there wasn't judgment or criticism, you felt the most connected. And that's because your value wasn't attached to what you did or what you didn't do. It was just because the person, you were just present, the person was just there to be with you. And that was enough, you
Whew,
know?
you have said a mouthful there. Like, so I want to pause. We hadn't gotten the viewers involved really, but I want to know, has anybody ever felt that way with somebody that they could say something that was awful, ugly, horrible about themselves, and maybe and the person that you were telling this to didn't judge you and how you felt about that, or you experienced some random act of kindness, somebody paid for your Starbucks while you in the drive through, or I don't know, put
Mm-hmm.
something on your utility bill. I don't know. So has anybody experienced that, and if so, how did that make you feel? How did that make
That's
you
a really
feel?
good question.
Yeah.
That's a really good
I
question.
know I have, and it often, I mean, it happens on a regular basis, and I think probably it's because I do that for people on a regular basis, and not that
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for it in return. It just kind of happens,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So Shaquela said, unexpected blessings always bring joy. Yes.
So I want to, so since we're talking about spiritual, I want to make comment off that comment where
Mhm.
unexpected blessings, right? So we could say blessings all day. It's like, oh, it's a blessing. We're happy. Maybe we're expecting to graduate. It's a blessing. I worked hard for 4 years, but even that, like, I worked hard and I got this. It's still a blessing because you have to put your work into getting a lot of things in life. But the unexpected part is where I think the worthiness is in that, because you didn't have to do, well, likely in the unexpectedness, maybe you didn't have to do anything for it. I'm guessing kind of how she's saying it.
Mhm.
Because if you expect something, that usually means you did something, you're kind of waiting for the results,
Mhm.
right? Potentially. But if it's unexpected, again, a random act of kindness, someone just gave you a random compliment, kind of thing, just things that just happen throughout your life, it kind of gives you that extra push of joy. I love the word that she used, joy, not just happiness, right? We're
Mhm.
so conditioned to be conditioned, right? That like sometimes we miss these marks, so to speak.
Mhm. All right. And Kendra, I saw your question, so I'm gonna go back to it in just a minute. So Ozzy said it costs nothing to be kind. Indeed. I think most times I place people in that position just because. All right, we got Sopa Umbrella saying it is very special to experience the genuine kindness from another person, especially if you or they are not expecting anything in return. Indeed. All right, so Kendra asks, what do you think about how that works with neurodivergent folks and people with different disorders that make self-regulation challenging?
Yeah, that's a really, really good
That is
question.
a good
So
question.
one of the things that we talked about at the retreat as well is, and this kind of goes back to your one of your questions about how we practice it or how we get to
Mhm.
know or remember that we're worthy. Those other self words do matter, so I don't want to discount them completely. I just want to make sure that we know conditional versus unconditional. But with neurodivergent folks and folks that kind of have other abilities, I love that question, because we know that society does judge and criticize and devalue, unfortunately, individuals who present differently than the population that they're comparing them to. And so they're getting that messaging, again, that conditioning over time. And I think, unfortunately, people may feel that because they present differently that they don't understand, right?
Mhm.
And if a baby understands, we already established that tonight, then definitely adults or people who've been in the world for a period of time and know and realize their difference, or maybe they don't realize the difference, but they just feel the energy. We use energy a lot, right? In terms of like how they're being treated, they know that something is off. They may not describe it as a worthiness issue or anything like that, but they realize and they feel something that feels uncomfortable or
Mhm.
uneasy or not genuine or something to that degree. And I think I'm not a specialist. I don't specialize in working with neurodivergent or of people with other abilities. But I have, but that's not my specialty. So I think to further answer that question from how to work with them therapeutically, I know Dr. K is a professor. That would be a great question for someone who does that. What I will say from my experience, or what I believe would be helpful, because I want to make sure I defer to experts on that and also put in my opinion, that you'd probably work with some of the more conditional self words first,
Mhm.
right? Just to kind of increase, because I would say it would be maybe, let's say, difficult for somebody who has low self esteem, low confidence, to then be able to understand their value, because we're conditioned that their value is of these other self words, if that makes sense, right? So it's okay to start there. I think it's just remembering, and if that person may not know, but if you're supporting that person, advocating or doing therapy with that person, you know that you're getting them to the other part, right? If they don't know that yet, but you can start there, right? So and the reason I talked about it took me a while to talk about this part, Nicole, because I know you asked me that in the beginning, but I wanted to wait
Oh, that's
to
fine.
a certain part, yeah, to say the self-worth part like enough times for me to get the difference. Because I feel like if I start off with the other self-worth, we're going to get locked on that unintentionally, because that's what we know. And so I
Mhm.
wanted to wait a little period of time. And so I think it's a great time to talk about
Okay.
how this is a way to potentially increase your self-worth. We just have to remember that it doesn't stop at the confidence or stop at the esteem. These are just ways, like a doorway, to increase your sense of self, know yourself a little bit more. And then the more you lean into yourself and then start doing the things about the meditations, the spirituality, the affirmations, about the fact that, oh, it's great that I do these things great and I'm these wonderful things, but that's not all of who I am. That's not all of my being. I can lean into these other spaces, these other areas to remember and I say remember because I do believe that we know this at birth, like we know this as just being here, but we lose it along the way. That's really what I feel. I didn't say that part yet.
No,
And I want to empower you to find it.
I agree. And so I hope folks are hearing this, like it's already in you. You just got to tap into it. Right.
Yeah.
So a couple of comments. My mom said these acts are pleasant surprises and make me feel special and appreciated. Yes. Haitian Speed. I don't allow myself to be in position to receive any acts of kindness. I don't want to end up having to owe someone a favor back.
Wow. Can we pause on that for a second? I don't know if that's okay. This
Sure.
is so powerful. And I would love the audience to chime in on this because what's being said here is I don't even want to receive kindness or something that's a good gesture from someone because I don't want to have to owe anything. So we are talking about something that's transactional. We haven't used that term yet tonight, but transactional, like again, conditions, and so in the times when it could be unexpected, nothing attached to it, Haitian Speed still feels like, oh, no, they're going to want something back. I may not be able to deliver it. So I'd rather not even give it a try to have to owe anything. And that, gives us a space of comfort because like, you know what, maybe Haitian Speed wants to be the one to give it to people and that's great. But if we're not even able to receive it, what are we missing out on?
Yeah. I mean, again, so perhaps Haitian Speed's experience has been anytime that something kind was done, there was a quid pro quo type thing going on, like you're gonna owe me one, right? And so now you're applying that same rule across the board to everybody that provides an act of kindness, and that might not be the case.
And we're robbing ourselves of that moment of feeling worthy without doing anything, right? So we're talking about using that as a way to build our self-worth, to practice it, because we're still human. Even though we have spiritual selves, we're still human. So we have to go through this human experience to get there. And so these acts of kindness and stuff help us remember. So unfortunately, with this example, and I say unfortunate because it is unfortunate, because I know we all think it to some degree, that or experience to some degree that not only are we not participating in that. Well, I'm assuming the person is not, but in this example specifically, not receiving, that means you're robbing yourself of not just the joy and excitement of getting, the random act, but also from this moment of feeling worthy for not even having to do anything, just being there,
Indeed. So Carter Therapy, thank you.
Yeah, that's my girl. So we do the retreats together. That's what I was talking about. Hey, Brittany. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for being here, Brittany. Say yes, we are born worthy. And then Ozzy said that comes from a place of self-esteem and cultural intelligence. Yeah. Wow. So again, I think Haitian Speed's comments is like, again, still kind of that example of the world is doing these things and we are processing it in such a way, right? And so then we apply this, the way we process it across the board, not allowing for there to be a differential treatment based on a different person providing this act. We get it in our mind that this is how, if somebody do me something, then I'm going to owe them something.
Yeah. And let me say it's also protective, right? Like, so that's the part of the conditioning is protective. I love how you said something might have happened, right? So yes, right? We're conditioned from childhood to a certain point. And we never, this is the issue with it, right? Like with your question was such a great question. Like, how do we do it? And it's like, I had to think about it for a second because I could have easily said, well, you meditate, you affirm. And I was like, wait, I can't just go to the bullet points because I need people to know, like, you already worthy. Like, even I fell into it. So it's me and Brittany are like, even ourselves, like, deprogramming how, you know, we think, how we talk, because we want to also model it for the people that we serve, for the people that want to connect with us, because it is challenging. I actually gave an example about another time, I can't remember, but like even being a therapist, like working for agency, I know Brittany can relate to this, like our evaluations at these jobs are based on how many clients that we see, not how well they do, not we get a good review from one, like nothing to do with, I mean, you get a verbal like, oh, good job, the client, you know, was complimenting you today, whatever. But on our actual forms that go to HR,
yeah,
the criteria is the percentage of clients that we see against the percentage that we're in the office.
Quantity over quality.
So what does that say for a therapist who's trying to teach clients and students in these communities, like, you are already worthy, or here's self-esteem, whatever the self words you want to use, I'll leave it free. But that's not what you're being measured on. And that, as for a baby therapist growing up, that's a mind warp. It's like, what do you mean? Like, does this not matter? You know, and that's just my profession. I can't imagine all the other professions. I think the thing for the helping professions, we're told one thing in school, and I would imagine for people like engineers or people who like are finance majors, like it literally all is numbers, you know what I'm saying? So maybe that is different for them. But I think if you're in a helping profession, teachers, even like anything that's you're helping people, I think when you tell them now that their salary or their worth really is based off of the number of bodies that come in the door, and not the actual minds and hearts that you're healing.
Right. No, I think that is across the board. I think that's just the way the systems are set up, is to, you know, make sure you have the most number of widgets or the least number of widgets, depending on, you know, what you're doing. So, yeah, which is unfortunate. So Ozzy said life is about giving and sharing and not necessarily just receiving. It should be a lifestyle. Yes.
I agree.
And then Ozzy said something that I actually was getting ready to ask everybody on this live to type in the comments. If you can, I am worth it.
Yes.
So if you all will, I am worth it or I am worthy in the comments, please. And I hope that you all affirm this every day. I am worth it. I am worthy. I am worthy, worthy, and I am worth it. All right. So Paul Umbrella is Frank Hill. I always forget that, Frank Hill. He says, I know that I tend to back away from potentially environments where I may encounter cruel people, but I also try to recognize my own actions and behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's challenging, right? When we're, like Nicole was saying, when we're hurt. And so I want to also make sure this is clear. Saying, you know, affirming that you're worthy and affirming that, you know, you don't have to do anything, just be here. This is not enabling, like not doing what you have to. This is nothing to do with that. Like you can, and that's the part that we don't know how to do yet. And I say we as a society, where we remember that we're worthy, but we still be of the world, like do the things to your spiritual, you know, comment, like, and that's the part that kind of trips us up, right? That's why I gave my example about work and being a therapist. And I said you affirm that for other professions, where it's like, you know, something changes within us, like we're saying, and that now this becomes the way of being, is out of production, out of transaction, now that's our primary way of operating. So that's why when we did the retreat, Brittany and I, we were like, man, like we have to do this. Like this has to just, because we weren't sure if we're going to keep the topic. We're like, we're passionate about it. We don't know how the women, you know, but the women loved it. They asked for more. And we're like, well, we're tapping into something that's, you know, significant. And so it's not, we even encourage them to have like worthy accountability partners, and we're going to create more of a space to do that.
Wait a minute. No, did you say worthy accountability partners?
Yeah, Brittany, tell me if I'm saying too much, girl. She in the chat. But yeah, that's one of our, I mean, we encourage them at the end of the retreat to connect with each other.
Okay.
And so that's one of the things we want to cultivate as well, is having people do that. Because I think, and if you think about it, you probably already have some people, maybe not a lot of people, maybe one or two, you know, girlfriends, homeboys, sister, brother, somebody who you know knows your heart, and that's all, you know. But the reason we came up with it was, one, we wanted to give the women an opportunity to connect outside of the space. And we didn't, you know, sometimes when you go to events and stuff, even though it was a really calming event, it was relaxing, people enjoyed it, it was really like laid back and really wanted people to be in the experience. It's still, they still don't know each other well, other than what they met that day. And so we wanted to make sure that we, being the host, gave them permission, because, you know, being the host, you kind of have to, you're waiting for people to say what or whatever, to go ahead and exchange information if you're comfortable. Because when you leave this space, it was a beautiful space, by the way. Once you leave this space, you're going to be back into the world of conditions. So in here, we done stripped away all the conditions. It's unconditional in here. Remember that for yourself. But we know you gotta be realistic that now you're gonna go back into school. You're gonna go back into being a mom. You're gonna go back into being whatever job you're at. And a lot of those topics actually came up in the retreat in the small groups we had in terms of like where their worthiness was challenged in the spaces I just said. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to make sure that they encourage each other of what they learned that day, and then to move forward with that it's a daily practice of remembering that you're worthy, you know?
Love it. Love it. Love it. I really like that a lot. I've not heard of a worthy accountability partner, but I really like that concept. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just think that would be quite a.
You gotta come to our retreats, Nicole. We got one coming up soon.
I do, but an encouraging like check-in. You know what I'm saying? Like I have an accountability partner, and we talk every Friday, and really it's more work related. Like we talk about our wins. We also talk about our losses, but we don't specifically, but talk about our wins and we talk about our goals. And so like each Friday, how did you do on, last week's goals? But
so imagine if we went, and I'm with you because I'm very production oriented too. This is, I think, another reason why the topic resonates with me so much too, because I'm like, yeah, I'm on like, okay, get the goals, get the wins. Right. So I completely get it, and at the same time, I wonder, I'm putting myself in it too. I think Brittany's probably my worthy partner because we're doing these retreats together. But what would it be like if we put the same energy and we go just as hard on these career goals, school goals, even family and baby and husband goals, whatever these other goals outside of ourselves? I'm accounting that, even though again, our relationships, are my number one thing. But even me, I have like, yeah, we got to go a little bit deeper because these things we can, again, my clients, Brittany's clients, a lot of them made a lot of progress in therapy and they're doing amazing and they value their experience. But we have to be honest if there's something else that we could be addressing that could make them actually enjoy or have joy in what they already have because they already know that they're enough. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you can do all these things and not even be happy with it.
Yeah.
And we might think, oh, because I'm depressed, I'm anxious. Yeah, those are the symptoms in the book, But like, what is it within yourself that's not allowing you to be happy with all the things that you've already checked off your list? You know?
Perhaps that will make it more meaningful.
Yes. Oh, I'm all about meaning. That's one of my practice values is purpose. I'm like, why are we here? Somebody tell me. Oh, that's my auntie. Hey, Marie. Hey, my viewer. Yeah, she's one of my supporters. All unconditional love.
Nice. Thank you for being here. So somebody texted me that I guess didn't want to be. They didn't want to be necessarily, but they said we need daily affirmation that lifts us up daily. It may be something we hear, read, or embrace. These goals we have to make for ourselves. Let the affirmations grow as we grow.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah,
so I like that. So you can start off with, again, the other self stuff in the affirmations. I'm a great mom. I'm a good manager. Like whatever things that you feel like, I know I'm horrible. Like you can start changing that language to help with the affirmation. But I promise y'all, that's the only thing I'll say. Like as long as we don't stop there, we will eventually make it to where we're going. Like I think that's the part is that we were conditioned to be conditioned. Like okay, that's enough, but then we don't feel like it's enough on the inside. Something is still missing.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, this has been great, and still we've only scratched the surface, really, because we actually have some other questions we were supposed to ask, but we didn't even get to these questions. I'm gonna share them with y'all though. So it was worthiness and the impact on relationship with self, which I think is mainly what we focused on, but the impact on relationship with others and impact on mental health.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk about them in a way that, we can expand wherever y'all want me to expand. But in some of with others, I'll start there. So one of the things that I realized doing couples therapy is that a lot of times people project how they feel and think about themselves onto their partner, right? And so that's where the self-compassion kind of started when I first went on my framework, and then I went to the self-worth a little more deeply, where if we feel that we're okay, for example, if we feel that we are not worthy on some level, or we don't have value on some level, then that could mean that it doesn't matter how much our partner says that they love us or that, you know, it's unconditional or whatever it is, there's going to still be a part of ourselves. Oh, they're just saying that. They don't really mean that. It's like you just start like dismissing not just compliments of like, oh, you look pretty today. That's part of it. That's where the self-esteem part comes in. Like, oh, you don't matter what they say, you don't believe it. That's self-esteem. But the self-worth part is like, now we're talking about what your partner's describing as their hopefully unconditional love for you. I mean, if there's other reasons why you don't believe it, that's another conversation. But we're talking about a situation where there's no reason to not to believe it. You know what I mean? Like on a objective sense. But even when you hear it, and even when you feel it sometimes, you still may be discounting it and feeling like it's not what they're fully saying or dismissing. Like, and so you may think it's because of your or whatever's going on in the relationship, but a lot of times it's like it could be, doesn't matter what the partner does, you still just don't feel like you're worthy of that type of love, or maybe you're just lucky, or like all the stuff that you kind of discount of yourself. It's like, no, if it's a healthy situation and they love you and it's unconditional, it could just be that. It's like the random act of kindness thing. You know, it's like it could just be that. And so I think the relationship outside of it, I'm talking about romantic primarily, but that could be any relationship, or even the person is showing you kindness, is unconditional with you as much as possible. I mean, of course, we're people, so there might be moments of judgment, but mostly coming to you in a healthy, supportive way, and you still don't believe that they're really there just for you. You can even make it more general than, you know, than that. Like even with clients, and it's an interesting thing being a therapist, right? Because they're coming to you, they may be paying you self-pay or insurance or whatever. And so even when I had to kind of learn, like as a therapist, how to give compliments, because it's different coming from a professional, because they are not gonna think, oh, you just telling me because you're my therapist, you know? It's like, you my mama, that's why you love me. That's only, you know, it's like you kind of discount that. And so I'm very purposeful about, and I'm very thoughtful and intentional about what praise or validation I give my clients, because I don't want to just be, and I'm very kind, I'm very compassionate, but I don't just say it just to be saying it. Like, you know, I wait until there's a time in which that I even for me, like I have to really feel it. I'm not going to just say it, but they don't know that, right? So if I'm throwing out compliments every week, they're gonna be like, you just always telling me I'm doing a good job. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing a bad job. So I have to really be thoughtful about when I decide to give the praise, so they know, and that's usually when it works best. But when I was a baby therapist learning, I was, you know, say validate your clients and support them. And you're like, okay, you know, you just look for every little thing to say. It's like at some point people just they're not gonna take it. So you have to like wait until people really connect with you. They know it's genuine, and also you see you're presenting a mirror to something that is significant enough that for them, because for you it might be significant, but maybe for them it's not. So you have to present in a way that for them it has value, you know. And so that's the importance of even outside of yourself. So, you know, even when people in your life who might be your parents, your mom, someone that you might assume like, oh, it's just because, but guess what? These are people who actually unconditionally really care for you, you know, and that's who you should be leaning into to build it up as well, you know?
So my mom said part 2.
Oh, you're so sweet. That's what I'm saying. Look at that mama love right there. Look at that, Nicole. See, unconditional.
Yes, but I think she wants us to flush this out some more, and it's already been our hour. So, and I want to be respectful of folks' time, so I will have to have you come back.
Yeah, anytime.
So I want to give you an opportunity to give some final comments and also to share how folks can connect with you.
Yes. So the last thing I want to say, if y'all forget, you know, I know I have a lot of stories and analogies and I talk fast, but if anything, you can forget anything else. The only thing I want y'all to remember is that self-worth is unconditional. Self-worth equals unconditional. If you forget everything else, just remember that. In terms of in contact with me, Instagram is probably the best social media to follow for like updates with events and things and me doing lives. It's just my practice name, Heartfelt Counseling Center on IG. I have other platforms, but that's the best one to get the most updated. If you are interested in counseling, like actual therapy, and you're in the state of Florida, call the number there, 407-512-5674. That's the best way, because that's the clinical side of it. The social media is more like, you know, events and things. So that's the best private way to reach me to see about services. I also want to say that I'm excited to share about 2 new services that I'm providing this year. So one is a retreat that I just talked about, the You Are Worthy retreat with Miss Brittany Carter, who's on the chat with us. We did one this past week in Windermere, Florida. And we're going to have another one still in Central Florida, because we're both in Central Florida, sometime in October. It's going to be a Saturday. It's going to be a 10 to 4. It's in person. My practice is fully virtual, so I'm always happy to see people in person. That'll be cool. And we are going to flesh out retreat style, worthiness, you're worthy. We always make sure our attendees leave with something to practice
Okay.
to do. So it's not just only talking experience in the moment, but again, we want to make sure that people translate it outside. And we're going to ideally continue on this for as long as we can because we think it's necessary to do.
Nice.
And the second thing is that I just started through my practice. I got another therapist who just joined me. Her name is Kamisha Joseph.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and no, it's my first person who's working with me. I've been solo for so long now, but she is coming and offering a service that I didn't offer before. That's the most exciting part of it. She's offering a support group. And she actually came with it. It was her baby, her idea. I'm just supporting it through my practice.
Okay.
She's also a marriage and family therapist, and it's going to be a virtual support group. So anybody in Florida, so even if you're in Tally or whatever, it's called Healing with My Sisters.
Okay.
Okay. The sign up is going to be coming in about a week. But right now we're going to have it on Friday nights at around 6:30. I believe she's going to start. We didn't start yet. We literally just announced that she joined the team like 2 days ago. I mean, she's been working with me like for a long time and we finally made it formal, but to do the group and everything, we announced it about a couple of days ago. And so the group announcement should be in about a week. And so it's exciting because it's virtual. We can reach a lot of women. It won't be just about worthiness, but that will be one of the topics. It's really a group of whatever the women want it to be, and we'll have topics for them to like, you know, jump off of, but it's for a space to an ongoing. It's not just a 1 day retreat. So that's the two different things I have going on.
Nice. Well, congratulations on both of those things. I definitely have been seeing a need for more group sessions just in the community, period.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that you're offering that, and you know, folks can take advantage of it. So good deal. All right. Well, I am again just overjoyed that you are here with me tonight. Thank you so much.
Always.
Yes. And so we'll have to schedule a part 2. I mean, we already got you coming back in July, but we might have to squeeze you in somewhere else if we can.
Yes, we will.
All right, cool. I hope you all have found this to be helpful, our viewers, and many of you have been giving us hearts and thank yous and things of that nature. We really appreciate you being here and interacting with us and sharing, because, you know, we just need these types of engagement opportunities, because I think it's just so important for our mental health. And so I thank you for sharing and being transparent and engaging with us tonight. Wednesday, I have Dr. Christina Sandville, and we will be talking about systemic oppression in the workplace. Systemic oppression in the workplace. So you don't want to miss that. So we'll be back here at 8:30 for Wellness Wednesday. For those of you, again, who are new to the platform, I invite you to subscribe to the Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel. Subscribing and supporting, and we need all the support we can get. We are live here on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 talking about mental health in Black and Brown communities specifically. But you know, it's open to anybody. And we want to encourage y'all to get your checkup from the neck up, connect with a counselor today, tomorrow, next week. Listen, use them. This is why we have them here, right? Use them while you can. You know, there are a number of services that are out here, you know, and why I pause and ask, are you taking new clients? Do you take insurance? Because I'm hoping that the viewers will connect with you. So
yes, please.
yeah, because it's important. It's important. So more folks chiming in. Great conversation. Thank you again for being here, Ms. Carter. Good show. Thank you. We got Mr. Zach on with us. Awesomeness. Thank you for being here. And Shaquela said thank you for tonight. Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Our pleasure. All right, good people. We are going to bid you good night, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.